Evolution. Evolutionary biology is a study of the life forms on Earth. Evolution simple means and the orderly change from the one condition to another. It is the changes in the flora and fauna that have occurred over millions of years on the Earth. Origin of life. Origin of life is a unique event in the history of universe. The universe is vast and very old, almost 20 billion years old. Huge clusters of galaxies that contain stars and clouds of gas and dust comprise the universe. The Big Bang theory attempts to explain to us the origin of universe. A single huge explosion unimaginable in the physical terms is called Big Bang. The universe expanded and hence the temperature came down. Hydrogen and helium formed sometime later. The gases condensed under gravitation and formed the galaxies of the present day universe. In the solar system of the Milky Way galaxy, Earth was supposed to have been formed about 4.5 billion years back. Milky Way galaxy. 4.5 billion years back. Initially, other planets of our solar system, including Earth, were very hot and barren. Somehow, conditions on the Earth changed and life originated on the Earth from the inanimate matter. Today, Earth is the only known place to support life. Origin of life on Earth from the inanimate matter is known as the biopoiesis. Origin of life from inanimate matter, which occurred about 4,000 to 4,200 millions years ago. Several theories have been given by various scientists to explain origin of life. Example: theory of special creation, cosmozoic theory, theory of biogenesis, apparent Haldane theory, theories for origin of life, theories of special creation. This theory was proposed by Herbrew and supported by Father Soares. It says that life was created by some supernatural power either once or at successive intervals. It says that some supernatural power called God formed living organisms. Living organisms were formed all of a sudden. They have not undergone any change since their formation. All these ideas were strongly challenged during the 19th century. God formed living organisms. Next, we have the cosmic panspermia theory. Scientists believe that life came from outside. Early Greek thinkers thought units of the life called spores were transferred to different planets, including Earth. Panspermia is still a favorite idea for some astronomers. Theory of spontaneous generation. According to this theory, it was believed that life came out of decaying in the rotting matter like straw, mud, etc. This theory was supported by ancient Greek philosophers. In ancient Egypt, it was believed that the mud of the Nile River could give rise to fishes, frogs, crocodiles, etc. when warmed by sun. Helmont held that human sweat and wheat grains could give rise to organisms. Helmont said sweat of humans can give rise to wheat grains and wheat grains. Theory of biogenesis. Louis Pasteur, by careful examination, demonstrated that life comes only from the pre existing life. He showed that in the pre sterilized flask, life did not come from killed yeast, while in another flask open to air, new living organisms arose from killed yeast. Killed yeast produced new organisms. Experiments of the Francesco Redi, Lazaro Spallanzani, and the Louis Pasteur, etc., supported the theory of biogenesis and disapproved the abiogenesis. Francesco Redi and the Lazaro Spallanzani and Louis Pasteur. Okay, they all supported the theory of biogenesis. Spontaneous theory was dismissed once and for all. Then we have the modern hypothesis or the chemical theory of the origin of life. Modern hypothesis, which is also called the Oparin-Hardin theory. Oparin of the Russian, Halden of England, proposed that the first form of life would have come from the pre-existing non-living organic molecules. Like RNA, protein, etc. And that formation of life was preceded by the chemical evolution. According to Oparin-Haldane theory, spontaneous generation of life under the present environmental condition is not possible. Earth's surface and atmosphere during the first billion years of its existence were radically different from today's conditions. Okay, Oparin theory is also known as chemical theory or the naturalistic theory, which was published in his book The Origin of Life. Chemical evolution. In 1953, S.L. Miller, an American scientist and student of Harold C. Urey, created primitive Earth like conditions in a laboratory. He passed electric. He passed electric discharge in a closed flask containing CH4H2O NH3 and water vapor at the 800 degrees Celsius. He observed formation of amino acid. In similar experiments, formation of sugars, nitrogen bases, pigments, and fats were observed. The synthesis of the carbohydrates, fats, and amino acids and the other complex organic substances probably occurred in the sea, which had been described by the Haldane, the hot dilute soap. The formation of protein molecule is considered a landmark in the origin of life. Biological evolution. The first non-cellular forms of life could have originated 3 billion years back. They would have been giant molecules uh, like the RNA, protein, polysaccharides, etc. Macromolecules, which were synthesized abiotically in the primitive oceans, later came together and formed large colloidal drop-like structures named as protobions. Protobions. They are the drop-like structures. It is believed that they were the cluster of proteins, polysaccharides, lipids, nucleic acids, etc. These protobions were unable to reproduce, but they could grow by absorbing molecules from the surrounding and can exhibit simple metabolism. Protobions were also synthesized artificially by some scientists in laboratory. For example, Oparian prepared some of the protobions without a lipid membrane and he called them coascarvates. Oparian prepared some protobions without lipid membrane and called them coacervates. Similarly, Sidney Fox synthesized some microscopic proteinoid bodies with a lipid coat and called them microspheres. Nucleic acid develop the ability of the self-duplication due to sudden change called the mutation. Nucleic acid ability to self-duplicate. Nucleic acid and protein combine to form the nucleoproteins. These are the first sign of life. A cluster of nucleoproteins surrounded by lipid coat are called the protocell. These are the first sign of life. Protocell were the cells of protocell were the cells of nucleoproteins surrounded by lipid coat. By lipid coat, the first form of life. As a result of mutation, protocells became more complex and efficient to use the materials available in the surrounding medium and evolved into the prokaryotic cells. The first living beings were single cell prokaryotes like bacteria with naked DNA. First living beings, prokaryotes like bacteria, naked DNA. They were probably chemoheterotrophs and the anaerobic. Some of the chemoheterotrophic bacteria evolved into the chemoautotrophs. They were the anaerobic and synthesized organic food from the inorganic material. This mode of nutrition is called the chemosynthesis. Example: iron bacteria, nitrifying bacteria, etc. When bacteriochlorophyll was developed in some chemoautotrophic bacteria, they started to convert light energy into the chemical energy. This mode of nutrition is called the photosynthesis. Some molecular changes occurred in the bacteriochlorophyll and it transformed into true chlorophyll. Such organisms use H2O as source of hydrogen and release oxygen in the environment. They were oxygenic photosynthetic bacteria. Example: cyanobacteria. Liberation of free oxygen by the cyanobacteria was a revolutionary change in the history of Earth. Nucleus, mitochondria, and other cell organelles developed in the cell and metabolically it became more active. Thus, free-living eukaryotic cell, like the organism, originated about 1.5 billion years ago in the primitive ocean. In the cell and the metabolically it became more active. Thus, free-living primitive ocean. Evolution of life forms a theory based on the Charles Darwin theory during a sea voyage in a sail ship called the HMS Beagle round the world, concluded that existing living forms share similarities to varying degrees not only among themselves but also with life forms that existed millions of years ago. Many of these life forms do not exist anymore. There had been extinction of different life forms in the years gone by, just the new forms of life arose at different periods of history of Earth. There has been gradual evolution of the life forms. Any population has built-in variation in the characteristics. Those characteristics which enable some to survive better in the natural conditions, that is climate, food, physical factors, etc., would outbreed others that are less endowed to survive under such natural condition. HMS Beagle. Sea voyage. Another word uses is the fitness of the individual or population. This fitness, according to Darwin, refers ultimately and only to reproductive fitness. Hence, those who are better fit in an environment leave more progeny than the other. These therefore will survive more and hence are selected by nature. He called it natural selection and amplified it as a mechanism of evolution. Alfred Wallace, a naturalist who worked in the Malay archipelago. Alfred Wallace, Malay, had also come to similar conclusions around the same time. In due course of time, apparently new types of organisms are recognizable. All the existing life forms share similarities and share common ancestors. However, these ancestors were present at different periods in the history of Earth, epochs, periods, and the eras. The geological history of Earth closely correlates with the biological history of Earth.